Hello, my lovely people. Hello, my lovely people. Hello, 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 hello to you all. Thank you for streaming today, whether you'll be streaming live or you'll be watching or listening on the replay. It's a joy to be able to share with you again today. And some of what I've already shared, it's been like a shockwave to some persons. Some of what I've shared, some persons are like, wow, you're brave to share these things. Some persons may say you look nothing like what you've been through. And the truth of the matter is, as a child of God, I'm not supposed to necessarily look like what I've been through, because of the grace of God, because of the mercies of God, and because of His love, and because of salvation, right? And because of all that, I have put on the garment of praise. I'm no longer clothed in shame. I'm no longer clothed in sin. I'm no longer clothed in guilt, in condemnation. I'm no longer clothed in all those things that had me bound and made me feel like I was less than, or not worthy of, or felt maybe not welcome, like feeling a part of, and so I'm just super grateful for what God has done for me through His Son Jesus Christ. Yes, through His Son Jesus Christ, and of course the Holy Spirit, who is present with me today. And so I am happy to be on today and to share with you all today. And I'm just happy, as you probably can tell. Whenever I'm supposed to do a stream, it brings joy to me, because it encourages me to, it empowers me, and it edifies me also. Because yes, I do go back and play my own podcast or my videos and watch them and listen to them, because there is something, sometimes we may say things that we're not even aware of when we say them, because we're so plugged in, we're so powered up and so fired up. So sometimes, things may be said and I may not even realize some of the nuggets that I have spoken and some of the seeds I'm sowing into others. And so because I don't want to miss the opportunity of receiving, I go back and I play the streams and listen to them, and also I listen and watch to learn and see where I can improve, or what I could do better and stuff like that. And so I'm still learning and growing in this whole podcasting. So as time goes by, I'm sure I'll get better at it, because that's the aim. But most importantly, the mission is to share and impart, and hoping that somebody will be encouraged, inspired, edified, but most of all be transformed and walk in their value and their victory. Today I want to talk about self-sabotage against self-worth. And this stream may not be for everyone, as I think sometimes some streams, one stream may be hitting direct to one person or a few persons and stuff like that. So I'm believing that today somebody will be impacted by this podcast titled Self-Sabotage Against Self-Worth. As we know, self-sabotage or sabotage means destroy, damage, disrupt. So clearly sabotage is nothing good, right? And as a result, it only brings destruction. Sometimes we self-sabotage ourselves through some of the things that has been done or said to us. And because some of the things that has been said or done to us, we allow it to impact us in such a way that we feel like we cannot get over, go through, or pass over and get to the other side, the side where there is milk and honey, the side where there is victory, the side where there is greener grass, the side where there is more abundance, the side where there is just awesomeness, awesomeness. And I just want to say that I myself have suffered or had suffered and settled in self-sabotage for a while years ago, and I settled or suffered or struggled in this for a little while based on broken relationships. Now I'm talking about both spousal and friendship, right? Because it's not just relationships that we leave with a broken heart from. Friendships too, if that friendship was something that we valued, if that friendship was something that we cared about, or the person we cared about or cared for, you know, and we'd have invested our time or energy, maybe some resources too. And so when some relationships are no longer active, it can leave us with a broken heart. And I'm sure I'm not the only one who, you know, has been through those kind of things. But some of us have been able to cross over. Some of us have not yet been healed, or have not yet fully processed what has happened, or maybe some persons may have not yet seeing that they can experience something greater or something better, something new, something awesome, something great. Yes, something greater even than what they had experienced, you know, previously. Now, some persons may say, what do I really know about self-sabotage or the destruction it can cause, or what do I know about broken relationships or broken friendship? I don't look anything like that kind of stuff. And I'm here to tell you that I am not exempt from problems. I am not exempted from trials. I'm not exempted from struggles. I'm not exempted from separations. I'm not exempted from trials or challenges. But what gives me the great hope after experiencing all of those things is that I can be of good cheer at the end. I can, you know, overcome. I can come out victorious. It doesn't, or it didn't have to always be like that, like the way it was. And for that I'm grateful to God for. So that is where my hope comes from. And during that period of, let me talk about the broken friendship. There was a friendship I had, and with this friend of mine, you know, we thought we had a good friendship going, or we did have a good friendship going, until, you know, we shared someone who was mutual, and I didn't think that that would have created an issue later down the road. And that mutual person was a family member to the friend whom we started dating. We were in a relationship and going on and stuff like that, and everything was good. But then apparently there were some issues beginning to arise that had nothing to do with me, but then I suffered as a result for what was taking place with them. And it affected my friendship real badly, because the way we used to be, we were no longer like that. We became distant. We started throwing words at each other on social media. We used to really say some things on social media that would cause great hurt. And it was not beautiful, it was not lovely, it was not friendly like. But I remembered there was a point in time I wanted to make amends with our friendship, because I was like, this is not true friendship. This is not how friends treat each other. This is not how friends act. This is not what friendship should look like. I remember I went to share, I wrote on my laptop in the notes app a very long apology and sharing how I felt about the whole thing, and I'm sorry and that kind of stuff. And I remember when I went by my friend's house to show it to her what I had written, because our broken friendship, it was taking a real toll on me. I didn't like it. It was nothing good about it. And I remember when I went and I was trying to, express to her how I felt about the whole thing, and her response was just so dry, so callous, I think, at the time, so cruel and that kind of stuff. And I remember it started raining a little, it started due rain. And as I stood there, I was thinking, wow, she didn't even say, Ara, come inside. And in expressing how I felt about our friendship and I wanted us to make amends, it was like almost nothing. It didn't mean anything to her. It was invalid. It was like null and void. I remember closing the laptop and putting it in my bag and left, and when I got a cab, I remember I was crying like a baby. They would say, woman cry or man cry like when them woman left them or them man left them. That's how I was crying. I had to try to hold myself together in the cab, because other persons were in the taxi and they were like, wondering what's going on. I also remember when I went home that evening, I locked myself in my room and I wept. It's like what them said, Jesus wept. I wept. And I wept to the point where it felt like my chest was tightening. It felt like I was gonna stop breathing. That's how much it affected me, because I was hoping that she would have been more receptive, and I was expecting that it would have been reciprocal. What I was expressing, it would have been reciprocated, but that did not happen. So all of that broke my heart. All of that hurt me the more, and I cried for days. Once I get the chance by myself, I cried. And it was the same thing. And I remember after a while, I started saying to myself that I won't forgive her. Yes? I remember, like I was saying, I don't want anything to do with her. I'm not going to forgive her and that kind of stuff. But there was another part of me that was crying out and saying, God, forgive me, forgive her. Because I didn't want bitterness, anger, hatred, and that kind of stuff to take root in my heart. I really didn't. And so I had to now started praying for that kind of a release. Yeah? And when that happened, I don't remember how long after she apologized, but she did apologize and said that I was not deserving of how she treated me, and how she was treating me had nothing to do with me and stuff like that, and it was not fair to me. And she was also sharing how she had valued our friendship and how I was always there for her and supportive and that kind of stuff. And I accepted her apology, but things changed. Our friendship was never ever the same thereafter. It was never the same. And the the self-destruction or the self-sabotage that started to seep in was that because of the brokenness I felt in that friendship, I started to say to myself, or I started believing, I don't need friendship. Bear in mind, I had a friend before her, my best friend, whom we've been friends for 20 years, thereabouts. And I'm saying to myself, wow, this friendship that is not broken makes me to now start telling myself that I don't want any friend at all. And this brokenness had nothing to do with my relationship with my best friend. We've had an issue maybe once, something like that, very small, nothing big, nothing callous and that kind of thing. And that's how this relationship impacted me, causing me to feel the way I felt, that I no longer needed any friends. I no longer needed to be close to anybody like that. And that was a lie from the pit of hell. Because we need friendships. We need people. We need people around us. One of the other destructive things that happened with this friendship was that it made me had thoughts that were not good, thoughts that were not edifying, thoughts that were not helping me. It also made me start thinking that maybe I'm attracting the wrong friends. Bear in mind, this one friendship made me start thinking like that, which was not good at all, right? It made me started measuring my friendship with my best friend, whom we're still friends. It started making me to measure our friendship in a negative way, right? And it took a while for me to go through all of that and to process everything and to be healed from it. It was something that I had to be constantly praying to God about, for God to heal me, take the hurt, the pain, the anger, the bitterness and all that kind of stuff. And another way in which I experienced self-sabotage was from a broken relationship I had years ago. Now, this is gonna cut the cake. I remember, long story short, I remember dating this guy, and he was a little older than I am. And being a single parent, it's not easy. He was a single parent too. And I remember he had fallen on some hard times financially. I bear in mind, I'm a single parent. I didn't have money like that, but I had a little savings. And one of his daughters were to do CXCs. Well, that's at least what he told me, and he didn't really have all the money, and I understood what that meant. Though my older daughter had not yet experienced sitting CXC at the time, I understand it, because I guess it was just compassion and trying to understand that I could have been in that position and need someone to help me. So that's how I was thinking. So I decided I was gonna lend this man some of the little savings I had. And so I did. Some people may say, but she lend man money. I can laugh now because it's funny. But I remember, after lending him the money, when it was time for me to get it back, it was hell. I could not get it back. It was hard. Somewhere between there or early relationship, because I call it early, because we were together for less than a year, I think it was at the time. I think. And I could not get back that money, and we had broken up, and it hurt me the more because I had lent this man some money, and here I am needing this money, and you would think I was the one who owed him. he would dodge me, would ignore my calls if he do answers, all kind of stories and all that kind of stuff was happening for a while. Because I really needed it, because like I said, I didn't really have money like that. And the other thing is, I think I had some monies outstanding to pay at my daughter's school too at the time. But again, I'm saying, okay, this can wait, it's CXC, and I know once the fees are not paid for CXC exams, that creates another issue. That's why I extended my hand to help. After not getting back my money, the thing that started seeping in now was, it made me to believe that I did not want any more relationship and all men are the same. It caused me to start isolating myself a bit, and for some people these things may cause them to go in depression or maybe suicide, commit suicide and stuff like that. I did not get to that point of ever thinking about suicide. Maybe could have been depressed a little bit, but you know, I definitely knew, I said to myself, I didn't want to be in any relationship anymore, and all men are the same. And one of the most destructive thought that came to my mind was to hurt this person. Because I'm saying, here am I don't have money like that, and I was just trying to help, and he had agreed that he would have given back the money by X time, but did not hold true to his word. After thinking I'm gonna try to find some way to hurt this man physically, I was like thinking it may become so self-destructive that it's almost like I was thinking aloud some of the thoughts and saying them aloud, to say I'm gonna just do this man, this kind of thing and that kind of stuff. Where I worked at the time, I remember there was this young lady there. For some reason I trusted her to share what happened, and she was a Christian. I remember sharing with her, and upon sharing the experience with her, what happened, she said to me, Aura, don't get yourself in any trouble. Leave him alone. God will fix him. God will deal with him. Vengeance belongs to God. And after she said that to me, it's almost like I hear her, but I really didn't hear her, because I was like, I really need this money right now at the time. Like, now wasn't I really need the money. And he didn't give it back. No. After a while, I remember going to my bed one night, because I as I keep saying in all my streams, I pray a lot and I cry a lot to God, literally cry and pray a lot. And God knew my heart, that that's not really the heart that I have by nature, to do evil like that, to be wicked and that kind of stuff. But because of how it affected me, the brokenness, how hard it was, or how hurtful it was, it caused me to start thinking how I would do, how I can hurt this person physically. After going to my bed one night, I remember in the hours of the night, the Lord gave me a scripture, and it was from the book of Proverbs, chapter 13 verses 5. And I was like, and at the same time I was trying to recommit my life to God and that kind of stuff, so I wasn't fully in a recommitting stage, but I was trying to work my way back into having a relationship with God again. And so the scripture came to me and I was like, what? So I wrote it down. I woke up and I wrote it down just so I wouldn't forget the scripture. I went back to bed and I woke up early the next morning. And when I read it, what it says in Proverbs chapter 13 verses 5 is, a righteous man hateth lying, but a wicked man is loathsome and cometh to shame. That word gave me some reassurance. That word gave me some confidence. That word gave me life. that word gave me hope. That word made me to believe that God saw my heart, He saw the situation, and knew I was only trying to be helpful, but this person was not honest. That this person was just outright just evil. So I was like, okay, God, yes. And of course, I was rejoicing. You're not supposed to rejoice in somebody's work, but I was like rejoicing and say, yes, God, I want you to fix him. Needless to say, we never ever ran in each other or anything like that. I did not see him, I did not hear him, nothing. There's no way to get in touch. So that all that money was just like gone. Oh, added to that, I remember God gave me more than I had lost thereafter. I think it was a couple thousand, like maybe $30,000. That was a lot for me at the time. And God gave me more than that. Other persons blessed me. I'm not talking about persons who knew my story with that man. I'm talking about God just had people blessing me, helping me. You know, so it made things a little bit better or easier with, you know, taking care of my daughter. And some of these persons were families, some were just friends, some were just people who I'm not really friends with, but maybe God may have laid it on their heart to be a blessing. And so I was receptive, I received it, and give God thanks for it. Now, one of the things, or some of the things that I came to understand, that self-sabotage is very dangerous, and what it will do to us. It's so destructive that it can put us into harm's way. If I had found a way to carry out some wicked act on this man, maybe I would have been behind bars. But thanks to the grace of God, it never ever materialized, nor manifested, nor happened, or anything like that. Because God showed himself up through his word and through that young woman who had encouraged me and stuff like that. The lessons I had learned through that broken friendship and that broken relationship is that I learned to set boundaries for myself and boundaries in relationships. A lot of times I think because we don't understand how important boundaries are, we may think boundaries is just something to just keep out. It's not all about keeping out something or someone. Because you can be in a friendship or relationship, but you set boundaries for yourself that, you know, is basically expressing or showing to that individual, this is what means something to you. You share your values with them. You share expectations with them, so that there can be a mutual understanding. Now, if you think those values or those things that you share with them is not so important to the other person, maybe you would want to think again about getting connected with that friendship or with that relationship. Yes, we owe that to ourselves to set boundaries, and sometimes too we can set boundaries with families. Because there aren't boundaries, a lot of us suffer a lot of things when we don't set boundaries. And I've learned that persons who have experienced hurt in some great way through different avenues, they go and get counseling, do therapy sessions and stuff like that. And it is things like those that I get to learn when they share about their therapy sessions, that they talk about the boundaries. And even in counseling, premarital counseling, you're not keeping secrets and that kind of stuff. There's no secrets to be held, but then there is boundaries. You have privacy, I have privacy. You have certain things that mean something to you, I have something that means something to me, and so we have to have respect or an understanding or an appreciation for that kind of thing, right? One of the other lessons I learned was that I had to learn to understand what I allow to happen to me. Because sometimes we say this happened to me, or that person did this to me, that person did that to me, but a lot of times we don't take the time or the step or the what should I say here, we don't do some introspection to see if maybe it's because we allowed someone to take advantage of us. You know, we don't try to see if maybe it's because we did not set boundaries in the first place why persons cross the lines, right? We may also not see that we sometimes allow things to happen to us because we did not make the right choices. Sometimes the right choices are looking us right in the face, but because of our emotions, we fall prey to some of these kind of friendships or relationships. And like for me, it was desperation that brought me there, so I allowed that. But my emotions were telling me that this relationship is, you know, give it a try. Date this person and see, you know, what it will be like. But sometimes the signs are there. Sometimes we're praying and asking God for signs. We want God to show us if we should do something or we shouldn't, if we should be in a relationship or not. And we get the clear signs, but we ignore them. And then later on, sometimes we might blame God and say, God, why you allowed this to happen? But it is also allowed it to happen to ourselves because we didn't pay attention to the signs. So that was one of the things I learned. I learned to be understanding of what I allowed to happen, and also I learned to be understanding of what I needed to do to go forward. I needed to be healed one. I needed to process the hurt and move on. I had to learn to make better decisions in choosing the types of relationships that I believe I deserved, not relationships based on just the emotional aspect of it, and whether it's friendship or spousal. I had to learn and learning during that period in understanding how to choose the right kinds of relationship. That was not easy. That was not easy at all. It was not easy. And so I just want to say that it took me a while. It took me a while to understand how to realize that I allowed what happened. Thank you for those who are just joining. I see you. Thank you, Ben Vixen. Thank you, Sissy Boo. Yes, one of the other things I learned was to forgive myself. And forgiving myself meant, because sometimes when things happen to us, we beat upon ourselves and say, how could I allow this to happen? So you see that we almost having a friction right there, because when I talk about understanding what I allow to happen to me, you know, it's different from how it's being processed, in the sense that what I allowed to happen to me, like how could I allow this? So we beat upon ourselves because more hurting turn to ourselves like that. You understand? And if we don't learn to forgive ourselves, it will take us maybe even longer to get over or get through the hurt. or the pain or the broken relationship or the broken friendship. If we don't learn to forgive ourselves, we in turn can be more harm to others around us, right? And I also had to learn to forgive the individuals. I had to learn to forgive that friend who I think had hurt me so bad. And though she had apologized, I accepted it. But accepting an apology don't necessarily mean you have to be arm and glove with a person. It doesn't mean that. It doesn't mean you still have to be engaged in any form of relationship. You can say hi, how are you sometimes, check in, whatever, and you don't owe them anything. You don't have to do that either. Right? And in forgiving others, that's releasing you too, so you can be ready for what is to come, which is better. And that's another story in itself, because what self-sabotage can do to us also is that it causes us to measure the relationships that we are looking forward to. We start measuring them against what we had experienced, which is a big detriment to our life. If we really want our lives to be better, our friendships to be any better, that's just wrong. That's dangerous, very dangerous. So we have to learn to understand these things. Sometimes too, we may say, oh, I learned Melissa from the friendship here, or I learned Melissa from the relationship here, but we're learning it in a way where it's harsh, like, me no want nothing to do with nobody, and me no want this, and I mentioned all these things earlier. It does us no good. So one of the other things I learned was to understand is to love myself again. Because of how hurt I was, I didn't want friendship with anybody, didn't want relationship with any man. I thought all men were the same. Because of how hurt I felt and the negative thoughts I started thinking, I had to reprogram my thoughts too, so I can attract the right people, the right things. And that's another thing that self-sabotage does. That's another way it can destroy. It's very destructive. It can destroy us. It's that if we keep thinking and saying and we're speaking it, saying we'll keep attracting the wrong people, why am I always attract the wrong kind of man, the wrong kind of woman, the wrong kind of friend? Then we're speaking that into the atmosphere, so we're allowing all of that to come back to us. That kind of, we're going to be seeing all them kind of people we don't want in our circle. But we also have a responsibility to ourselves to do things differently, speak differently, think differently, and also act differently. So if you find that you attract the wrong kind of people who may take advantage of you sexually, physically, emotionally, financially, set boundaries. And these are why boundaries are so important. This is why I talked about the things that we have to learn to do and the lessons I learned. So if you've missed it, you can just watch it on the replay and you learn of some of the things that I understood and applied to my life, so that I could become a better individual from those broken relationships, both spousal and friendship. Yes? With all of that said, if God did it for me, He can do it for you, that woman of worth. I am a woman of worth. You are a woman of worth. Will you tap in today and allow God to heal your broken heart? Will you be open today, be vulnerable with Him, and ask Him to heal you? Be real with Him and tell Him exactly how you're feeling, and He will work it all out for you. But you have to be open, you have to be receptive, you have to be truthful about how you feel with Him. And in doing all of that, that's how I received healing. That's why I no longer feel the way I had felt towards these individuals in the past. And that is why I also am experiencing the goodness of God through healthier relationships. We have to learn to choose healthy relationships if we desire to build families, if we desire to build a society, if we desire to build a community. We have to learn to choose healthy relationships. And healthy relationship may look like someone who is loving, forgiving, gentle, respectful, understanding, compassionate, supportive. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that healthy relationship individuals don't have their own issues or faults or flaws, because we all are not perfect. We have those things. But for the majority part, it is good to choose friendships and relationships based on the values that you hold dear to your heart. So today I implore you, take the time, sit with yourselves and ask yourself these questions. What do I value most about relationships? What do I value most about friendships? What do I value most about myself, which is most important as an individual, or yourself as an individual? You have to ask yourself questions also like, what do I value most about the kind of involvement that I want? Yes? We have to ask ourselves, am I choosing this relationship based on my emotions only? Am I choosing these relationships based on desperation, which is linked to your emotion? Am I choosing these relationships because I don't like to be alone when you come to the spousal part? Or am I choosing friendship because I have no other friend, or I feel like nobody wants to be my friend and stuff like that? We have to ask ourselves, what do we really and truly value the most? We also have to choose or learn to choose our relationships by setting boundaries, and I've mentioned this a few times since I've been doing this podcast. If I set boundaries for myself, will it offend the other individual? If I set boundaries for a relationship, how will the other person feel? These are things to take in consideration. Now, if we learn to set boundaries, what this does is, again, if you're connecting in friendships or spousal relationships that you are like-minded, then when you raise a topic about boundaries, when you make mention of the things such as values and that kind of stuff, it should not be of great offense. What it should bring is an understanding of why you hold to the values that you do or I do, why you set the boundaries you set or the boundaries I set. Now, when we can, understanding is so important, because it's once we can understand each other and why we hold the things to our heart that we hold, it can make things so much easier. The negative conflicts or the terrible conflicts that arises don't necessarily have to be if we put things on the table, lay our cards out and make the person understand where we're coming from, right? And why we are setting the boundaries that we are setting. Thank you so much for everyone else who is just joining. I appreciate you so much. It's so important for us to lay these things out. And one of the other things, we have to learn to act like what we want or we desire. So if we act like this person who is just so desperate, or we act like this person who is nobody else sees me and that kind of stuff, we act so vulnerable in that case, then of course we're gonna attract the wrong people, because they're gonna see as somebody will like, wow, she not nobody, she look lonely, she this or in that. You're gonna attract the wrong people for sure. So after experiencing the brokenness from relationships, be it friendship or spousal, dress yourself up. Hold your shoulder high. Lift your head up. Lift your chin up. If it means you have to reaffirm yourself, do that. If it means you have to start treating yourself in a more loving way, in a more gentle way, do it. If it means treating yourself looks like maybe going for a drink with your girlfriends, or maybe by yourself if you think that's what you need at the time. You know, if it means that you need to sit in solace and just meditate a little bit and do some introspection and that kind of stuff, do it. If treating yourself means that you need to go to the beach or whatever brings you joy, by all means go ahead and do it. You owe that to yourself. But remember, in order to not become or be a victim, which a lot of individuals tend to do after experiencing broken friendships or broken relationships, we start tagging ourselves as a victim. Not to say that we have not experienced victimization, but if we take that on and see ourselves as victims, then sure, the predator is gonna run coming in. So we have to learn to know act. If it means you have to know start dressing yourself up, if you feel like because of the brokenness, because hold on, let me just say this right here. Sometimes I forgot to say this part. Sometimes broken relationships or broken friendships, it causes us to no longer see our self-worth. It causes us to know we don't care about how we look anymore. We don't care about how we speak anymore. We don't care about how we act anymore. We don't care about anything that is for the betterment of our lives. That's a great detriment right there. The self-sabotage is a wicked, something that's very destructive. So if we don't learn to do that, we're in big trouble. So after experiencing all of that, we have to now come out our best self. Start dressing yourself up again. Start putting a big smile on your face again. If it means that you also have to play music, if you love reggae music, if you love soul music, if you love gospel music, go right ahead. Play them, sing your heart out. And if it means to that you have to cry, because crying is a part of healing. If you have to do that, go right ahead by all means and do it. Gain your self-worth again. Start becoming one with that woman of worth that you were created to be. Start becoming one with that unique self. Yes? And remember, you don't have to remain in the state that you are, my darling. You don't. You are worthy of love. You are worthy of forgiveness. You are worthy of grace. You are worthy of compassion. You are worthy of kindness. You are worthy of being the great woman of worth you were created to be. Walk in love. Walk in grace. Walk in peace. Pursue it, that it may also pursue you. I love you, but God loves you more. Shalom. Bye-bye.